I am going to talk on 5 tips which are useful for writing a good auditing and assurance paper. Tip number 1, focus on IFRS. Why IFRS is important? Because auditing starts when accounting ends. So for being a good auditor, you need to have a good grip on your accounting. That's why giving audit paper after FR really works. But if you are giving audit paper before FR, ensure that IFRS are done to the best of what you can. So your auditing paper will go very smooth. Tip number 2, focus on international standards on auditing. Now it is very important for you to mention the name and number of the standards wherever possible. I'll give a small example. Say I'm an auditor and I'm checking the financial statements of an organization and I feel that the company is incurring continuous losses. So what should come in my mind? That going concern assumption might get a hit. So going concern assumption, if I'm a student, I will write according to standard 570, going concern assumption needs to be checked by the auditor. So wherever possible, if you give a mention of international standards of auditing, it starts from say 200, 210, 220, 230 is audit documentation. Try to give a reference of that number along with the name wherever you can. Now that is going to add a flavor or a cherry on the cake or a feather in the cap. For that, you need to by heart the standards on auditing with their name and number. If you can do that, your paper will stand out amongst others. Tip number 3, focus on your articulation skills. Now what I mean by articulation skills is nothing but the language which I am using in an auditing paper. Now understand, my dear students, it's a complete theory paper of 100 marks. So you should write to the perfection of what the language is expected in the exam. For example, the auditor is checking transactions. Instead of checking transactions, I should use auditor is doing substantive audit procedures. Now substantive audit procedures and checking of the transaction means one and the same. So instead of writing checking of transactions, if I use substantive audit procedures, again my paper stands out a lot. Tip number 4, how to answer section A. Now section A is MCQs. We are supposed to attempt 15 MCQs which carries 2 marks each, overall 30 marks. A case law will be given or a small paragraph will be given. A student is expected to read the paragraph nicely. What happens is students generally rush with writing the MCQs or marking the MCQs, and which is easily scored, they lose marks there. So I'll really like to request you that read the content of the paper which is given for that MCQ, link it to the subject which you have studied, and then you try to attempt it. Spend at least, maybe ideal time is 1 minute and 80 per 1.8 minutes. 2 minutes, but not more than that. In that, I'll try to ensure that I answer my MCQ only after understanding the content of the question. Tip number 5, it's on section B, long answers. Now this is a very important part of your auditing paper. Reason being, it carries 70 marks. And you are asked or required to write 3 case laws, which carries case law also, plus direct questions to some extent. Now the first thing is, out of these 3, more important chapters are planning, evidence, risk and reporting. 1 or 2 case laws are expected from this part of the study text. Now that does not mean that you are supposed to skip certain things. Ensure you study all the chapters of the study text, but along with that, focus a bit more on these chapters which I said: risk, planning, evidence and reporting part. Now what happens is, like, these exams are required to be typed online rather than writing. So if you study these case laws on the study hub, that is going to help you a lot. Keep practicing the exams or keep practicing the questions by typing it, not by merely reading or writing it. थोड़ा सा typing practice की जरूरत है so that आपका speed बढ़े, and that is important for you to finish that case law in the dedicated time which is there. ठीक है, तो थोड़ा practice on study hub is important is what I'll say. Lot of practicing, a lot of content is there on the study hub. So kindly go log into the study hub and keep practicing that along with the exam kit case laws. If you do that, this is again going to help you. So I hope these tips were beneficial. All the best for your paper.